Jersey. Will it DTF? Of course it will. We already know it'll DTF. However, what I'm here to teach you today is how to DTF a jersey. I made quite a few of these for my daughter and her cheer team as cover-ups for competition. And when I tell you I messed up quite a few of them, I did. And in that process, I learned some tips that I'm gonna share with you today. Now, when making a jersey, the most important thing is going to be getting your graphic on this actual seam here. You're gonna want your graphics to not be much more than 4 inches tall in the center where they're gonna go over that. Secondly, you're gonna need to cut your graphics before pressing. Now, there's two ways we could do this. We could cut straight down the middle and then place it on and press both of them on two different sides of the jersey. Alternatively, some people will print two versions, cut them, that way they can have a piece that sits underneath the jersey when it's unbuttoned. For the purposes of my jersey, I'm just gonna be cutting it. Mainly, I'm gonna be wearing it buttoned up. The Sport Tech jerseys that I'm using today are 100% polyester. So there are some things to note. Firstly, your temperature should be set to 270 degrees, and you should be using light to medium pressure. These pressing pillows are extremely useful because not only are they going to give you smooth, even pressure across your garment, regardless of how many layers or seams or buttons, but also they're gonna make it so that your buttons don't leave an imprint on the backside of your jersey. Lastly, they're gonna help us here because when pressing polyester, if you accidentally use too much pressure, you will see a faint line on the edge of your transfer where you pressed. Let's get started. I'm gonna go ahead and place my graphic down and get it to where it looks roughly even. Once I have it there, I'm gonna go ahead and make my first cut. I'm gonna make my only cut. Once you've made your cut, something I like to do is trim nice and tight on that, what is this called? Flap? Flap? What is it called? The flap where the buttons go over. Is it just called a flap?
A shirt placket.
Fun fact, this little seam right here where the flap lines up is called a shirt placket. I didn't know that before. As I said, I'm gonna trim nice and tight around here, which is gonna make it easier for me to line up later since I don't have all that transfer in the way so I can see more clearly. Now for the first press. Now, as I'm placing the jersey on the platen, I'm wanting to take a look at where the buttons are and also how large my graphic is. Ideally, you want your pressing pillow to be large enough so that your entire graphic can fit on it. If you're in a pinch, you can use one of the thin ones just to make sure that the buttons don't leave an imprint on the back. However, you're gonna wanna make sure that the entire print has a pressing pillow underneath it. Once I have the pressing pillow in place and I've made sure that the print can fit on it, I'm gonna smooth out any wrinkles and I'm gonna give it a small pre-press. Since we have the pressing pillow in there, I'm gonna go ahead and lower my pressure before I start. I'm just testing as I pull until I get a nice soft pressure here. There we are. All right, now this part is important. I could just lay my graphics on just like this and go ahead and press. However, I'm gonna grab a piece of parchment paper and I'm gonna slide it underneath the flap here. This way, if for some reason this top graphic gets pushed down and slides over, it doesn't adhere to the bottom graphic. That can get you in trouble. We're gonna line up this transfer, make sure it looks just right, leaving just a tiny amount of bleed where we push in on the lower layer and over to the left on the top layer. I'll slide my parchment paper in. And we'll give it a press. I'm still on light pressure here. I'm going to add a little bit more pressure on my second press. That's the deal. Slide this out. I'll put my T-seal down. And we're gonna increase the pressure. That way we can get that second layer. Press it real good. Voila. We're gonna do one more second press now that we've got both of our graphic pieces adhered. T-seal. Also, make sure that your pressing pillow didn't slide during pressing. T-seal. And press. Okay, part one is done. Unbutton, here's what it looks like. We've got full bleed on the front flap, and the bottom flap is gonna stop just at the stitching right here. So it still looks clean, even though it doesn't make it all the way. And when it's buttoned, the graphic looks great. It lines up and it's good to go. Now, let's do the back. The back is a lot easier. Since we don't have all the buttons and stuff to worry about, we can press it just like any other garment. The biggest tip I have for the back is placement. Depending on the size of your graphic, you're gonna want the top of your graphic to be 3 to 4 fingers from the collar. I'll take 4 fingers down, slide my graphic up, make sure that we're centered, and we're ready to press. I'm sweating so much. Second press with T-seal. And there we have it. Man, that looks good. Okay, jerseys are actually pretty easy. They don't have to be scary. The main thing that you have to do is make sure that your temperature is correct for polyester, use light pressure, but enough pressure to adhere, and use a pressing pillow to smooth that pressure out. The really only scary thing is working around that shirt, what was it called?
Placket.
No, placket. There's the definition. Working around that shirt placket is tough. You wanna make sure that you get it lined up, it looks good, and you have enough bleed around that corner so that whether it's buttoned or unbuttoned, it looks really, really good. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.